Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. I'm still on location in Aberdeen, Maryland, and I'm now joined with Anika Orrock, who is an author and an illustrator and someone I've followed on Facebook for a couple years now, and honestly, this opportunity is top my week for sure. So Anika, thanks for sitting down here with me and joining me today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So I want to talk a couple things. Obviously we're here at the Baseball for All Nationals, and clearly you're a big baseball fan.
I am.
How'd you get here this year? And when you walked in and saw what was going on, is it what you expected?
Oh, well, I guess I'll skip to the second part, which is no. I mean, it far exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
I was so excited to be able to come this year after everything. I put out this book about the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League 2 days before everything shut down during the pandemic, so I really didn't get out to do much as far as promotion or events or anything like that,
right,
that I was supposed to do. And so for this to be like really the first kind of event associated with that I get to do, it's just like I just feel like the luckiest person in the world.
Yeah.
It's so cool. To see this many girls in one place doing this together and playing baseball, and to know that this isn't even all of them because of the pandemic. I think a lot of teams didn't participate, and there's still, over 500 girls playing baseball is just like, it's a dream come true. And I never got to really play. I played a little bit, but I don't play. But to have researched and written about women who were playing, 75 years ago with this league, and obviously long before that,
right,
but what the book was about, they were 75 years ago, and everything that they experienced and went through, and all the time that's passed since then, and how there's kind of just been an arrested development with girls playing baseball, and to see this is like, this is what that was all for. This is picking up where that should have, where it should have left off.
Yeah, no doubt.
And it's really exciting.
Yeah. So how'd you fall in love with baseball in the first place? Where did that connection come from?
That definitely came from my grandparents, and my grandfather, that whole, my father's side of the family, they all, my grandpa grew up in Napa, and he played baseball. His father played baseball for like a local, I guess what would be considered now like a single or double A team. And my grandmother was a huge baseball fan. She moved from a farm in South Dakota to San Francisco, just a block away from Seals Stadium. So they were Seals fans, and then the Giants came to town, of course. So I grew up loving the San Francisco Giants and listening to ball games out, summertime, listening on the radio or watching on TV, and since I can even remember. So that was where my love for it came from, for sure.
That's cool. What inspired you to write the book? Was there a aha moment that said, I need to help tell these women's story, or how did that come to fruition?
Yeah, definitely. There was a moment when, I was doing a lot of baseball illustration work, and illustrating games and drawing at games a lot, for different projects. And then there was a project coming up, a different book project, and I was gathering a bunch of my drawings, and it's such a weird thing to have made me realize it, but I was going through all of my own drawings and realized that there were hardly any drawings of women, and it was just kind of a weird thing to visually realize, visually it's like pretty boring. No diversity, but then also just got me thinking about women in baseball, and that I'm a woman, and what am I representing, what am I doing? And I started digging for stories of women who played baseball, and of course, this is one of the first stories that comes up because of Penny Marshall's fabulous movie A League of Their Own. And I was looking elsewhere as well, because women have been playing the game as long as men have been playing the game. But this particular league, and writing about this, what really struck me is that, I grew up, A League of Their Own came out when I was, I want to say 12 years old. So that was one of my favorite movies growing up. But as I started researching the stories and learning more about the players, to learn how much wasn't told, and it's a movie, you can't tell everything, and it was wonderful. It made the league known to everybody, but a lot of what I was finding in the women's stories was really resonating with me. It was things that I could really relate to, even though I didn't play baseball growing up. I wanted to, but softball was the only option.
Right.
And a lot of people, there are a lot of similarities, but for me, I didn't want to play softball.
They're different games, right.
So I just didn't, and then I just did other stuff, and I drew and did all the things I love to do. But a lot of what there was in their stories, there was like a thread of something that really, that I identified with, and it all kind of came together. I started kind of being more aware of my own place in all of this and what I wanted to advocate for and pursue and the stories I wanted to tell. And so this, I just decided to keep going with this and dig in and interview women that were still living, which thankfully there were quite a few at the time. And sadly, a lot of them have since passed away since I had the pleasure of interviewing them. But it was even more reason. I thought these women are still here and we can still talk to them about their experience and ask them, and I can ask them the questions that haven't been asked. I think that was one thing that was advantageous about me being a woman. So a lot of the people that have done the interviewing of them so far were men, and there's nothing wrong with that. They've gotten some great information, but it gave me the opportunity to ask the questions that I think
from a female perspective.
Yeah, that hadn't been asked, and that are a big part of the full experience as a woman going to do these things, particularly at that time. There were questions that I had that hadn't been answered yet, so that was really exciting to be able to ask them firsthand. That's
cool, and I think it's similar, kind of the way I became an advocate of women's baseball. Like, as you said, you're looking back at your art and noticing this huge gap. I had the opportunity to coach against the Silver Bullets in 1994, and after that game, I was just like, this team was good. Like, why aren't girls playing baseball?
Mm-hmm.
And since that time, I've just really been an advocate of it, and really kind of accelerated in 2016 when a local woman from where we were originally at in Reading, Ruth Hartman, we were putting together a girls' baseball festival in honor of her. Unfortunately, she passed away 7 months before the event, but it connected me with people like Maybelle and Shirley and Donna, and it's really kind of accelerated. So to be able to be here this week and interview all those women, and then like I said, this is a huge honor for me to sit down with you. And when Donna told me the other day that you would be here, I was like, oh well, I wonder if I can squeeze that in. So I know you got a train to catch, and I really appreciate you taking the time. But where do you think, as you see all these girls interacting, you're in the autograph line there, what were some of the things that they were saying to you that will inspire you to keep doing this type of work and promoting, what you're doing with the book?
Yeah, well, first of all, to be able to sit in a line and sign anything with them, I feel definitely not worthy. But it's exciting to have that venue of telling their story. But there were a lot of things that they said to me during interviews that, the way I was approaching it, it was kind of like a question that I wanted answered, but for the purpose of the book. And I never really, as stupid as this sounds, fit myself into that equation. As far as what would I want to know about it or get out of it, or what could I learn? It was kind of like, what can I put out there for other people to learn? And in that whole process, I learned so much. It was like some of the pieces really started coming together, and kind of after the fact, you've got all these deadlines, you've got these things you got to get done, you got to, you're so focused on getting a thing done that it really takes getting outside of it for it all to kind of absorb, for me to absorb what actually happened. And the pandemic was kind of a unique opportunity to do that. I was doing a lot of interviews remotely, and things that I may not have done when you're out in the world. You're doing like book signings, and it's kind of more putting things out and not really taking time to reflect. And I had a really unique opportunity to reflect. And the ironic thing is, it was at a time when we're in a pandemic as a country. All of these things started coming about where it's like the last time the country was in a position like this, even though it's far different, but very similarly World War II, where everyone had to mobilize and come together and do things for one another, and we're kind of left without a choice of of a lot of things, a lot of materials, a lot of resources. And so I really had an opportunity to reflect on what a lot of these women said and did, and just about doing things for yourself. And, one of my favorite quotes is, there's nothing better than, she's something to the effect of, like, I did it, there was no greater pleasure than impressing myself. Like, there's nothing better than impressing yourself. That was something I really took away. I was like, oh, that is a good one. But, for them to talk about it with the passion that they talk about it, and them to be as involved as they are today, I feel like, they've been working at this for so long, since they had the opportunity to play. And, they're going all out, but they're getting older, they're slowing down, some of them have passed on, and to just feel and see that passion and that drive coming from them, and they've been doing this work for so long, it just makes me feel even more inspired to just keep it going, because I, knock on wood, I'm physically able and I care about it, so I'll just do everything I can to keep what they started going.
That's
and
cool.
The women before them, and women after them as well.
That's cool. So again, I know you got a train to catch, so this will be a little bit shorter podcast than normal, but again, I really appreciate it. And I, anything else you want to add before we get to my final question?
What would I add? Gosh, I don't know. Just, if you're interested in playing, come to this thing next year, because it's awesome.
How about it?
This is one of the coolest things I've seen, for sure.
It sure is. So, as you know, the subtitle of the podcast is Many Little People in Many Little Places, which comes from a fellow San Francisco, I don't know if he's a native, but he's there now. Michael Fronte is opening lyrics in Gloria. Many little people in many little places do many little things, and the whole world changes. So what's one of the little things that Anika does on a daily basis to try to make the world just a little bit better place than it was yesterday?
Well, besides doing the dishes, which makes only my little world a little bit better every day, I would say it's storytelling. I try to draw every day, and write if I can. But there are just so many amazing stories out there that deserve to be told, and I think Instagram is a great venue for that. And it's good that there's a character limit, because it keeps me in check. But I think there's so many wonderful stories, particularly women's stories, that deserve to be told and need to be told, because they offer something to other girls and women. And if I have the capability of doing that and the skill of doing that, either through my art or through writing, then it's a pleasure for me to do. But I think that's probably the way we perpetuate possibility.
Yeah.
So
that's very, as a fellow storyteller, that's very relatable. I mean, this is what this whole journey is about,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I would listen to my mother's stories, and when we started to do this, I was like, what if she was around when Facebook was, so if she was doing podcasts, so sorry.
No,
But,
I 100% relate to that.
You struck a chord.
Yeah, well, that's everything. And my grandfather was, he was a daily columnist, and he got to write about whatever he wanted, and I'm lucky enough that I have all of those columns, and I'm working to put them out on a website, but he was an incredible storyteller, and I feel that same way, and those stories to me, I treasure them, but I also feel like those are the conversations that I got to have with him, or that I didn't get to have with him. And there's so many times I think, God, if he could see, sometimes I feel like I can hear him laughing. I can hear him belly laughing or shaking his head or going, So I think we are doing, just like we were saying, carrying those things forward. I think we are an extension of what they started, and it's pleasurable for us. We get a lot of joy out of it, but what they were, what your mom and my grandpa were doing was that. They were putting goodness out into the world through story, and I think story is so incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
There's so much possibility in that, but that's how whole cultures continue to exist, just through the passing down of story.
Yeah.
And if you think of it, that's really powerful, and I think we still have the ability to do that. And now we have all these awesome tools of reaching more people and technology and all that, and I think that's when it's used for good.
Yeah, no
So
doubt.
you're using those tools for good.
No doubt. So you've got a website. Give a little shout out for that so people can learn more about you if they haven't heard of you, and where they can get the book and where they can see some of your awesome art.
Well, thanks. Sure. Yeah, my website is my name, which is AnikaOrrock.com. AnikaOrrock. Spelled. My name is a funky one. And yeah, I'm on Instagram and sometimes on Facebook. I'm terrible at it, but and Twitter. And the book is, I guess I should, it's the longest, I'm gunning for the longest book title in history. The Incredible Women of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League. And yeah, it's wherever books are sold. I always encourage local independent bookstores, but
Thank you so much for the time, and folks out there listening, be sure to check out my other blogs and podcasts at danclouser.com. Anika, safe travels back, and again, thank you so much for taking